At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 10.
Good evening, I'm meteorologist Gabe for Mississippi Live Weather at 10. We have an active next 24 hours as we're walking through a level 2 severe weather risk, and that cold front moving through the central part of the United States, and that will be moving into our area tomorrow. Limited storms tonight, so don't be surprised if you hear a rumble of thunder, but those remaining below severe limits. But strong storms moving in Saturday and potentially severe, and some potentially rotating, resulting in a brief tornado. We're also going to have Game of the Week highlights coming up later on in this broadcast as well. But before we get too far, I do want to bring in our Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhan. He is live over in the Room to Room Weather Center. And Matt, it is going to be a time where we, of course, need to be paying attention. We need to get our layers of protection, and we have the latest in regards to that timing and impact.
Yeah, that's, of course, what we'll be talking about here in a couple minutes. I think one of the big headlines, and you've looked again very closely at these 0Z models, the ones that have come in the last, few hours here. Your immediate thought on the trend on this?
Strong enough to where we need to definitely have ways of staying safe heading into tomorrow. I still think that it's continued the trend of a brief spin up possible, and I think that's kind of what stands out usually in severe weather events is always, is there going to be a tornado or is there not? That's always the question in the chat, and I think there is a limited potential that we could see that, but I really think that the gusty winds in advance of this line are still possible. We still have enough unstable air to produce some of those strong storms, and so I still think that this could be something that we have multiple reports for heading into this broadcast tomorrow night.
And I think the big headline, though, is if we were to see tornadoes, they would be brief. If we were to see wind gusts, we're not talking anything extreme. This is going to be sporadic, isolated pockets. Yes. And of course, that's what you're looking at here in the first 12 is kind of the beginning time frame. We'll talk more, I think, discussion on this here in a couple minutes. But I think the big headline tonight, this is not a high-end severe weather event, but this has been productive other places. So we should assume there's still some strong wind gusts possible, especially, and maybe some hailstones when it gets here.
Yes, and there are folks that are going to be in the green and think, oh, we're not in the yellow, we're not in the bullseye, so I don't need to be worried. Well, to give you perspective,
more on that here in a minute, but let's get through the first 12 here as we kind of show those areas. Okay,
well, yes, so bringing it back in here to the Room to Room Weather Center, of course, we are going to be talking about that first 12 and, of course, the latest on that timing with some of those rain chances. And as you can see, limited capacity tonight as a few storms roll through North Mississippi. Our Ethan Foster was out there at our Game of the Week, and he was letting me know, hey, there's a few showers, there's a few high cloud tops off there towards the west. Well, he'd be exactly right. I mean, taking a look out there towards Clarksdale, of course, getting a visual. And as we take a look, there are some of those deeper DBZs that are showing up, meaning that some hail is happening, potentially, way high up in the atmosphere. Now, if it reaches the surface, we have yet to get any reports confirming that, but nonetheless, it is still a stormy night for folks out there just west of Batesville along Highway 6, and with 68 strikes so far, it's definitely going to be an active evening. And so as we look at that hail core a little bit, you can see some of those blacks showing up. That's going to be those deeper DBZs as well. And that hail threat, I'm going to have to, Matt, if you have access to this behind the scenes, actually, I'll do it real quick. Zooming in on this storm specifically, I forgot to put a toolbar down there. You can see that we do have some of those deeper blues showing up. And whenever we're talking about those deeper blues, that means there is some limited hail potential. And so as we track out that True Shield Roofing hail swath, you can see there is some possible hail resulting from this storm as it moves just right along Highway 6 between Batesville and Clarksdale. So that's one of the ones we're paying attention to. But of course, the big driver in our forecast is that warm, moist air. And we still have warm temperatures tonight. We still have moisture in the atmosphere with dew points in the mid to upper 60s, those deeper blues showing that. And as that moisture continues to climb there from the south in advance of this front that's still centered across the center of the United States, that's going to work together to produce some storms, and some of those being on the stronger side. And with this being a very strong lifting mechanism and having enough of that unstable air, that's where it's, again, possible that we could get a brief spin up, but it's also possible that we could get some of those sporadic wind damages as well. So that severe weather risk, still that level 2 threat. And I will say, they've expanded it a little bit more east since this broadcast last night. And reason why is because I think there's going to be some afternoon heating taking place, kind of destabilizing that atmosphere, meaning that as this line rolls through, since it has a lifting mechanism with that front, I mean, if we're reaching Starkville, Columbus by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's enough of that daytime heating to take place to kind of build that potential. And similar to how we've been able to see storms the past few afternoons, it's going to follow that same pattern. There's enough of that unstable air to provide some lift to potentially produce some of those strong storms. As we look at that expanded risk, it is going to be level 2 threat all the way from Dallas up towards the Starkville area in Meridian, Mississippi. So this is a pretty expansive level 2 threat. I don't think they go above a level 2, but it is going to be an area that's right along that front as it pushes south and east through North Mississippi and through the entire Magnolia State. So latest, what the National Weather Service did, the latest run on that, I'm going to bring it back in here real close. We have a severe thunderstorm warning. So we were just talking about some of those darker DBZs showing up. That's because of the potential hail threat. And so, Matt, we were talking about it this time last week about that possible hail and getting some of that tonight. And this is kind of, we're not expecting severe weather, but there's enough of that unstable air to produce maybe some small hailstones.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily not. This is not a high likelihood event when you start talking about severe weather, but you do sometimes get these kind of left splits, which is what this looks like this is here, where it does produce a little bit of hail. Let's go and bring this in here a little closer for a moment. And as you'll see here, this one including Panola County and Tate County in effect until 10:45 p.m. We see kind of the black returns on that on Mama Justice Doppler radar. As you might remember from last week, that's where we're starting to see again some of that very heavy precipitation. You can see how just kind of concentrated this is near the Bobo community there and just east of Marks. As we kind of cut this down into its most intense areas, might have to actually slice this one 3D for that, because I think we have, since we don't have this in true analysis mode, to get an idea. But we do show some of that extending up. That's pretty intense there. This would be 10, 20,000 feet. And so that is what's heading more toward the Ballantine community in a direction that will take it towards Senatobia. So this, in effect, as you can see there, until 10:45 p.m. for Panola, as well as parts of Quitman County there, as it's mainly to the west of the Batesville area. I don't know that we'll be able to get the Batesville camera to show up on that. I think we might have to go to over here to analysis mode to get that. So give me just a moment so we can get kind of a shot there from that, the lower left. And let's turn on interaction for that. And as we do, we can see if that Batesville camera, and Gabe, we might have to swing that Batesville camera around here for a moment, and then we'll kind of proceed on with the broadcast. But there we are in Batesville. And you'll see kind of in the corner of your screen some of the lightning strikes as this is sort of zoomed in toward that as well. That's a lot of lightning showing up on the latest couple scans on this here. So looking back toward the west, a severe thunderstorm warning, hail the main impact on this. And you'll note there, just kind of looking at the corner, this will stay west of the Batesville area in particular, that we're looking at that. Bring it back here to Mama Justice Doppler radar. I'm going to show you our hail swath on this. We do show, again, that concentrated area there between Bobo and the Marks community where the hail is possible. And yeah, definitely more probable looking at this here on some of the latest scans on our hail tracker, where you see some of the yellows there. So kind of high-end probable. So that's why we're thinking, again, some damaging hail possibility on that. Moving northward, so let's go and clear that off here for a moment. That's moving toward Curtis Station. And you can pretty clearly see there Ballantine and Senatobia in the path of this thunderstorm. Let's get a speed on this. So we'll put this in the motion here. We'll do a 1 hour loop. And Duke. Apparently the dog has decided now is the time it wants attention. That's real life for you. So let's track this back there toward the Drew community. So we show over the last hour moving about 40, 45 miles per hour. So this is moving a little faster than what we had last weekend as well, or last, I guess it's been last Thursday. So the left splits sometimes do that. So about 40, 45 miles per hour. There are some times, as you can see, Curtis Station, again, severe thunderstorm warning on this, and just a ton of lightning. I'll turn the lightning strikes back on. Quite a few lightning strikes on this in the last few minutes. Ballantine, again, we're looking at that for you at 10:17, Delta 10:19, getting there closer to, say, Cypress Corner at 10:31. Eventually, it's going to take a little longer. If it makes it all the way Hernando, it'd be about 11 o'clock before that's the case. But Coldwater, we're looking at 10:46 for you. And maybe my brain's just like is glancing right over this, Gabe. I don't see in that list there. I don't see Senatobia in that list, and maybe my brain's just like going right past as I'm going back and forth. Yeah, I do, right there, 10:40. See, if I read the whole list top to bottom like the consultant said I should on occasion, we'd see that more clearly.
That just means you've been up too long, Matt.
Huh?
I said that just means you've been up too long.
Man, we were over there at Coffees and Conversations in Oxford this morning. But what we'll also see on here, where you see the blues, those are tornado watches and even tornado warnings for confirmed tornadoes back out into Oklahoma. So the system has been productive at producing severe weather back west of us, and we do expect it'll continue to be productive, producing active weather into the overnight hours and severe weather, again, mainly back out to the west, really all along this line. As we talked about at 6 o'clock, this has been a killer from Oklahoma last night to Michigan today for tornadoes. I think that the upper level winds with this are going to stay strongest to the north, and that does mean the peak tornado risk will likely stay to our north as well. But you can see widespread showers and thunderstorms with this 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and those start to move more deeply into our area by 11 to noon time. Starting to get out towards Senatobia, back toward Memphis. But look what we have down here toward Yazoo City. And this is where our concern comes in, is if on the leading edge of this here, we get some thunderstorms that can get more organized, these could be the ones where we have that limited tornado threat coming in, isolated storms ahead. Notice on our futurecast here, those don't get as strong. We'll look in more detail at that coming up here in a couple minutes. But looking over the course of the next 24 hours, we go from 65 in the morning to 69 degrees by 9 a.m., 74 by noontime. Thunderstorms increasing in coverage into the afternoon. Probably that peak threat if we're going to try to pull out a tornado, which is obviously what we don't want. But if Mother Nature is going to make that happen, we're probably looking the early part to maybe mid-afternoon for that to happen. Really peak heating. A lot of us still involved in storm chances by then. Now, coming up here in 60 seconds, our meteorologist Gabe Maynor and myself are going to be breaking down where those threats are the most likely. And we're going to also look ahead a number of different factors. Again, the overall projections here and our thoughts on what are going to happen out of this. We will break down those threats coming up here in 60 seconds. We appreciate all of you for watching. Again, severe thunderstorm warning for some parts of the area, including Panola, Quitman, and Tate counties. The latest updates on that as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds.
When you've been injured, don't settle for a lawyer who doesn't even know where you live. Call Langston and Lott. Local lawyers, personal service, real results.
When C.K. Little opened his doors in downtown Corinth nearly 80 years ago, his plan was simple: deliver excellent service and exceed expectations. That's why we say a little gift goes a long way.
As a bankruptcy firm, Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling realizes many people are worried about their finances. We're here to guide you through the next steps to restart your life with easy video appointments. New clients don't have to leave home to get information about becoming debt-free. Also, convenient in-office appointments are available at the low cost of $340 upfront for a Chapter 13. You can be on your way to being debt-free. Contact Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling today or visit our website at mcdebtfree.com. We are here to help you. Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynor.
So we are tracking this severe thunderstorm warning still in place until 10:45 this evening. And that is for folks over there towards Panola and Tate County, moving just east of Crenshaw and up there closer to Senatobia. And this is a look out of our Crenshaw camera there with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. And you can see the high output of lightning kind of showing the increase in those lightning strikes, meaning that this is still a maturing storm and that hail has gotten bigger as it has matured. I mean, we're talking up to 1.5 inches in regards to what radar is indicating, but confirmation on the ground, still waiting on that at the National Weather Service and in our chat as well.
Yeah, again, we have a discussion back and forth direct to the National Weather Service, the way in which we share information. Their discussion on this here, they're thinking maybe as large as ping pong ball size hail. And again, that does kind of correlate back with what we were looking at a moment ago there. Gabe, I know you're looking for reports behind the scene. We'll talk more about those here in just a moment. Again, severe thunderstorm warning, Panola County there in effect until 10:45 p.m. That now west of the Batesville area near Curtis Station, where we show the largest on that hail potential on this. The lightning strikes 30 in the last 30 minutes here for locations in the shot, but of course that's moving there into and through western Panola County. Not that far removed there from the Batesville area, but still, I think the hail, we're talking about 10 miles to your west. As far as Como is concerned, kind of heading toward you, still 15 miles southwest of you at this point in time. So let's get a storm track on this at about 40 to 45 miles per hour. That's the speed that this has been moving. And so we'll take that again right about like that. We'll take it toward Byhalia. And so in the near term here, again, the next few minutes, we're working our way there through the Pleasant Grove area at 10:24. We're expecting 1.5 inch size hail. If you have hail out of this, you can send in your pictures using the Mississippi Live Weather app. If you do that, largest hailstone, if it's in excess of 1 inch, wins a $100 gift card from the folks at True Shield Roofing. We had one of those that we passed out yesterday for last week's hail. We hope we don't have that. We hope that's not something that they're giving away, but it's just kind of a way to make a bad situation feel a little less bad. So send those pictures in using the Mississippi Live Weather app because we do expect we will get some hail out of this. I do want to check the angle on this a little bit closer because kind of looking at that a moment ago, I might not be going far enough east on this track here. And that's drifting toward the eastern side of that. So I'd say the southeast side of Senatobia on this point here could be kind of more the target zone, but that's probably dropping some pretty good size hail. So I'm going to double check our angle, make sure we have that a little better there. Again, going toward Byhalia and kind of going through a bit of a transition at this moment. So we'll go 3D on this here, and I'm going to put on those kind of upper level returns, which gives us an idea on just how tall it is and the height of the thunderstorm like this, and we can kind of track how the hail moves within it. So as we kind of cut it down here to when we start to get kind of the black colors, that's when we know we really have some big stuff in there. And so that's kind of where we're at with this. So we have some bigger hailstones in it. Let's see how that has progressed over the last 10 minutes or so. Yep, and here's the concern. So this was dropping something over Bobo. Watch the height of this diminishing. That's telling me that the big hail is beginning the process of falling out. So when we're looking just ahead of this there, near the Ballantine community, east of Delta, west of Horatio, if it continues at this trend here, you are the folks that this is going to drop the largest hail on. So between now and Como, Parks Place there at 10:30, 10:29 Kings Corner, 10:24 there Horatio. Only a few minutes from now, you're most likely to see some of the largest hail on this as it moves toward the north and east. Of course, we're tracking this right now. We're going to come back to Mama Justice Doppler radar and look in more detail at this here in a minute. I do want to check our hail swath brought to you by, again, True Shield Roofing. And you can definitely see that we're in that probable category where we have the yellows and oranges there in the middle, most likely to be dealing with some issues with this. So hopefully you're planning accordingly ahead on this. The severe weather risk does extend for tomorrow, will include some hail. The overall risk, as you'll note here, including locations Tupelo, Starkville, Jackson, back toward the west. And when we look at, in particular, the different components, damaging wind, I think the most likely impact that we end up seeing for chunks of North Mississippi, there is a tornado risk there as well, and there is a hail risk to go along with that as well. But when we look at the hour-by-hour forecast going over the course of the overnight period, rain chances remain, again, somewhat limited. We're going to have, again, a few of these isolated storms. Honestly, this one overperforming. And Gabe, I think that's one of the concerns we have out of this storm system here is whether or not just in general it attempts to overperform because, again, killer tornado last night, killer tornado tonight up in Michigan. I'm not saying we're talking about the same thing here. Everything about this system has for days shown that it would be stronger in those locations than it is here. But that is to say that I think the likelihood to get a couple of warnings and maybe even a brief tornado, I think it still exists.
There is enough rotation. A thing that we talk about and a thing that we'll go over is helicity tracks. And this is basically highlighting areas where rotating storms are possible. And so as we get into that here in just a moment, that's areas that we're watching for those potential brief tornadoes and some of that large hail being produced as well. So overnight tonight, again, staying on the drier side, believe it or not. I know we have that severe thunderstorm warning, but aside from that, we're dry in the rest of North Mississippi, and we do expect those storms to taper off as well. But getting into Saturday morning and really into our Saturday afternoon, that's where that severe weather threat does climb. So this is our storm rotation. This is those helicity tracks that we were just tracking a moment ago. And as you can see, some brighter returns out there towards Arkansas, but this is still 7 a.m. on our Saturday. So I apologize, Matt. Go ahead and transfer over on this. I think there's one that follows. But basically what we're tracking is those helicity tracks as they move into North Mississippi. So first thing we're going to walk through is CAPE. CAPE is the energy that basically provides that buoyancy, provides that lift as these storms move in. And watch how bright these returns are. And again, here's your scale there on the right side. Brighter returns showing that there's a ton of fuel out there towards the Mississippi River. And as these storms cross in, especially with the daytime heating of the afternoon, that's going to allow some of these storms to flare up. And even this leading edge, like look right there, Greenville to Clarksdale. Some of those deeper DBZs returning, meaning heavy rainfall, but also if there's some lift getting these storm tops high enough, I wouldn't be shocked at all if this is where we get some brief rotation to try to take place. Man, I mean, look individually at some of these cells. You can kind of see how these are kind of wrapping around. I'm not saying it's impossible for a brief tornado to even happen at some of these individual cells at ahead of the line, but these are not going to be long-lived like we talked about a moment ago, and we're not expecting major tornadoes of EF2 plus. I mean, honestly, it's going to be on the lower end of the scale.
Well, and we don't. Anytime we say the T word, we have to be conscious of how it is. But you're right. This is probably not high-end tornadoes if we see it. But one thing, let's just be clear: we do have some individual discrete storms kind of forming here in advance of this. And as you can see from the yellows, there's plenty of fuel. Then the question becomes, what is missing? And that's the strong winds aloft. We don't have as much shear to keep storms organized as they had back in Oklahoma, as they had up toward Michigan. So I think we have plenty of fuel for thunderstorms, and we're going to have them form. The question is just how organized are these storms in advance? The fact that our projection here, our HRRR model, has any on there is always a concern. And when they merge up with the line, sometimes you get areas where if we would zoom in excessively close on some of these, that you can see that there are some spots there where we have some indentations, maybe some rotation. So again, this one we show near Calhoun County is one we're going to have to watch up here toward Algoma and Pontotoc County. And rather than, get attached to exact locations, just the very fact that we have some spots, that one up there closer to Corinth, another one of these here where maybe we have just a little bit of rotation. And that's where, again, that potential exists to maybe get this to try to produce a brief tornado. So some lead storms there again, Gabe, that we see along this line. I think the fact that we have those at all, always a concern. But I am hopeful that the lack of upper level support or more limited upper level shear could help us.
And that's one of the things we've been tracking for several days, is that's been kind of the limiting factor in all of this, fortunately. Otherwise, we could have looking at a much more elevated threat with how much fuel is actually in the North Mississippi area. One other thing that I think is aiding this system and getting a little bit stronger is the timing. And being that it is more towards the afternoon where the peak heating does take place, I think that's where it could increase some of the storm potential as well, especially as we get some of that buoyancy with that warmer, moister air. So here's a look at storm rotation. This is that helicity track that we were tracking just a moment ago. And looking out there towards Arkansas, you can see some of these brighter stripes, but these are not long-lived. Normally with the higher end tornadoes or the long-lived tornadoes, we'd see these stripes and they last county after county after county with those individual bright returns. But because these are so short, then I'm not exactly expecting long-lived tornadoes out of this. But that one near Bruce, Matt, that you just tracked a moment ago, having a pretty decent helicity track attached to it, definitely something that stands out. And as we head further into the afternoon and evening, there's still some of those brighter returns even out there towards northern Alabama where it's a marginal threat, but still that marginal threat could produce a brief low-end tornado as well. So, it just stands out. I want to go
back over this graphic if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple things that did stand out, and I'm gonna take it back to editor mode. I think that's probably the best way to do it because you pointed out that one, and we always look for them to connect. So, back out there, I'm gonna take it full if you're okay with that.
Yeah, no, take over.
Give me a second. So out there into Arkansas, again, we have this stripe here, but it does not connect hour to hour. We look for them to connect hour to hour. We look for them to be bright. I see this one near West Helen. It does connect hour to hour, right? See how on that hour there at 12 o'clock, it shows it there. And then the next hour, it just continues. So we're watching this one up toward Olive Branch. 1 hour, it's there. Next hour, it kind of shoots east. This is the one, obviously, you pointed out toward Bruce. Look at the eastern edge of this. Let's see if it connects the next hour. Kind of, sort of, not really. So we're hopeful that that's a sign that if we see rotation, if we were to see tornadoes, that they would tend to be brief in this situation. When they don't connect, that's one of the things we look for there. I will say I did notice this when you're going through it, that Russellville storm. And again, that's just outside of our area, east of Russellville there. That one does connect hour to hour as well. So luckily, I think we still have some questions on this, Gabe. But those are more pronounced holistic tracks than what we had even at 5 and 6 o'clock when we were looking at triple threat there. Admittedly, triple threat's a different model. That's our strike model, under doing that a little bit. But I think that the takeaway, in my opinion, looking at this, is that there's still going to be some rotation on these storms. Does it edge more toward hail? Hopefully it does. And that is one of the concerns that it could.
For sure. And even those gusty winds, don't overlook that either. And the heavy rainfall. That's one of the things we've been talking about all week long, with some areas getting in excess of 3 inches. And so as we head further into our Saturday forecast and some of those totals do climb, I mean, just take a look. When that main batch moves through, you can see some of those reds showing up. That's 4 inches. And of course, 3.1 being reported in Grenada just outside of it, but 2.5 Water Valley, 2.4 Eupora. And I'll be honest, the HRRR, not as numerous on those chances early Sunday morning, but I do expect that we do get some of that. You talked about it earlier this week, Matt, some training that could potentially result in some repeated showers that produce lots of rainfall, and that could produce some flash flooding threats as well. That level 2 threat for a large part of North Mississippi, and this is a result of some of that lingering moisture on the back end with some heavy rainfall, like I mentioned, right there towards Highway 82. And as long as this front remains in the area, more of those rain chances do take place. And so that's adding to what should already be a pretty substantial total, and that's where we get that flash flooding. And so that's why we are under that level 2 threat heading into early Sunday morning. No severe weather, but showers still possible, and it is going to knock our temperatures back a little bit. Still well above our average, don't get me wrong, but it will experience a couple degrees cooler than what we've been dealing with the past couple of days. And as Sunday lingers on, that stationary front tries to stick around as long as possible, but eventually pushes out there towards the east, driving this weather pattern east as well. And I'm actually going to stand over here, because we do have a severe weather threat for Sunday well out there towards the Carolinas. So what that means for us is we're not really expecting anything to build in until those afternoon hours, when more of those storms build in right there towards the coastal regions of the Atlantic. So flash flooding threat, being that we do still have a few of those showers working their way through Sunday morning. That's why we do have that level 1, that marginal threat for some flash flooding. But again, it should all remain. The highest impacts remain out there towards the east on Sunday. High temperatures still getting into the upper 60s and low 70s. There's that dip that we were talking about. So looking to make plans this weekend, Sunday afternoon, probably your ideal time frame. And this is a graphic that we don't air too often, something that I was editing behind the scenes, kind of walking through the individual timing. And so trying to line it up with those different blues. And so there you're getting, look, 10 to 3, kind of that northwest part of North Mississippi for that severe weather timing. 1 to 6 for that central part of our viewing area right along the Natchez Trace corridor. Then 3 to 8 Golden Triangle and out there towards Pickens County. So the fortunate thing, if there is a positive to take from this, is it's not a nocturnal threat for too long. We're looking at probably 6 to 8 p.m. that we could see that sunset, but throughout the day we need to have those alerts. And if you are in these individual risk areas or these individual timing areas, that's kind of the general time frame that I would say to be monitoring this. And of course, we will be live here at Mississippi Live Weather. Our broadcast schedule, we have it in place for organization, but we kind of toss it out the window on days like today or days like tomorrow because of that severe weather potential. And some of those storms could be impactful at 10 a.m. They could be impactful at 3 p.m. They could be impactful at 6 p.m. So, we're going to be here, have bodies in studio at all times. I think we're going to have basically every meteorologist on deck on your Saturday to keep you guys safe, keep you guys informed, and of course, let you guys know what's taking place.
Absolutely. So kind of the overview here on the severe weather threats for your Saturday. Again, a brief spin up. I think that we still agree with these levels here. We're probably not talking about high-end tornadoes, and it's not a high-confidence tornado situation. It's a low-confidence tornado situation. But a brief spin-up tornado is possible out of this. That does mean tornado warnings. And then anytime we're talking about tornado warnings, that means that you have to know how you're going to get those warnings. Weather Call is what we recommend because it is a phone notification system. And like I've said over and over again the last few days, I've ignored quite a few text messages over the course of this broadcast. But if somebody calls my phone, it starts vibrating, it starts ringing. So that disruptive quality of a phone call still makes a difference in 2026 America. So make sure you have Weather Call. It will call you for tornadoes, call you back if they're confirmed, and call you if there's major severe thunderstorms or major flooding. It is not free because making phone calls still costs money, but scan that QR code below me for the latest there on that. I'm going to bring up our chat here behind the scenes. And again, sporadic wind gusts a possibility. Some hailstorm reports. I think we're already seeing some of those this evening, and excessive rainfall in excess of 3 inches, the main impacts out of this system. As we look at that 7-day forecast here, we're going to be 80% on that coverage of storms on Saturday, 40% again, first part of Sunday where we're looking at that. We could again have some stronger thunderstorms possibly into Monday, but we are watching Tuesday, and really it's more Wednesday of next week, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, strong system, the kind of the west side of what's producing the active weather this weekend finally kicks through. And by Wednesday of next week, that could lead to some more strong to severe thunderstorms potentially here in and around the region. Let's go back here to Mama Justice Doppler radar, and we're looking at our True Shield roofing kind of hail composite here. As we show this, you'll notice that there's a place where this is a little bit slightly weaker there, gets stronger, and slightly weaker again. So as we talked about, north of Bobo here, dropping probably the main hail load from this severe thunderstorm. Warning continues until 10:45. That's still about 14 minutes away. Let's go back and check out the precipitation mode here on Mama Justice Doppler radar. Still showing some of those dark, kind of black sort of colored returns there in the deep, deep purple. But that is not as impressive as it was just a few minutes ago. You go back and see how you're kind of deeply into that black and gray sort of colors that you have there. That's when we're really even kind of that lighter gray dropping some big, big stuff. I think the biggest has probably fallen out of this. Best way to check that is look three-dimensionally on this storm. Yeah, I can already kind of tell that has probably dropped its biggest stuff as we kind of cut into it. Yeah, we could kind of see that a minute ago before we went into our full weather forecast. Let's back it up. You'll see how you kind of have this big area sitting above the surface there. That was where we had some of our kind of biggest hail there. They're kind of near the Ballantine Community Kings Corner. Now, if we advance this to current time, as I've zoomed in a little bit, you'll see how that kind of goes away. That biggest hail is likely largely fallen out of that thunderstorm as it's approaching the Senatobia area, and even in the last minute or two when we've been looking at this, that hail size is likely coming down. So we probably had some 1 inch or larger hail. If you have those reports, you can send them in using the Mississippi Live Weather app. Again, free and available for all those different devices. Also, if you're watching us on Facebook and all that kind of stuff, the Mississippi Live Weather app, the reason it's, I think, valuable, and we talk so much about it, number one, it's our primary delivery mechanism. But watch, if I just hit that icon there at the top, you can see at the very top there, the first thing that's going on, it's kind of green because apparently every time I choose to do this, I've got green on radar, but that's the live stream right there at the top. So if we're live, you can see that live stream right there at the very top of the screen. So it's kind of the easiest way to interface with what we're doing here on Mississippi Live Weather. So we'll keep tracking this here in a moment. Let's get you kind of a longer storm track on that once again as well. But this one in the decaying phase, hopefully a trend that will continue on that is that kind of works through the dying phase as it sort of collapses. So 45 minutes, if it's able to hold together. We're Newtown there at around 10:41, Senatobia Lakes at 10:44, Antioch at 10:50, Independence at 10:53, Warsaw there at 11:09, and Byhalia close to 11:12 as it moves toward the north. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, again, kind of working here behind the scenes. Gabe, you have new information?
Yes, so this is actually a storm report from Sardis. I believe it was TEMA submitting this to the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, and that looks, again, no measurement beside, but I don't think we need that to know it's well over an inch in size. So Matt, that's basically what fell out of that severe thunderstorm that we were tracking just a moment ago. That's a good size hailstone, and that can do some damage as that does fall. So working to get some reports here behind the scenes, but that's the first one we've gotten so far. But my word, that's a good size stone.
Give me the location on that again.
That's Sardis.
In the that had to be west of Sardis.
Well, let me see.
But
because I believe that he said Sardis if he wants. Yeah, he said in Sardis. So, James, if you do have an exact location and you want to put that in chat.
That's going to be Ballantine or Horatio, which I understand. Like those, again, some of what we have show up on Mama Justice Doppler radar isn't necessarily like if you were to go, it might be a Sardis address. We try to put on every single location we possibly can. But I mean, generally Sardis area, a little west of Sardis, where I would definitely put that. So you watched it in real time as that went through collapsing and dropping that big hail.
Well, let me add this too. If Tima submitted, I believe it was Tima, apologies if I'm saying that incorrectly, but if she submitted that through the Mississippi Live weather app too, then that could be some money in the pocket. So
it definitely would be.
And so that's where we recommend, if you get these hailstones, we don't want it to happen, but we can't control Mother Nature. And if it does happen and you submit those hailstones to us in a safe manner, then you will be in the running to potentially get that $100 gift card if it is above an inch and the largest stone. So if you're over in the area and you have gotten reports of hail, send them in through the app.
Yeah, team it. Go ahead and send that in there. Before we move on to sports here real quick, I do again want to show and kind of wrap up our pre-severe weather coverage looking toward tomorrow. First thing to know is that tonight, the primary severe weather risk is west of us. In saying that, what we have to illustrate comes here when we look at storm reports. When you look at the storm reports here, again, we have lots of lightning on there. You can see that this is always designed to kind of have a cluster of where the reports are the most concentrated, should be close to the bullseye here, right? And so you have a lot more of them in the orange and yellow than you have outside of it. But let's also be clear, even in the green, you can have multiple tornado reports, which is where we have, unfortunately, had a killer tornado up here toward Michigan. Gabe will get that video ready. We'll kind of re-rack that video for you as well. I see that look in your eyes. We'll make sure that we pop the audio down on that. Pull up the source behind the scenes, and once it's pulled up in the preview monitor there, I'll look and I'll make sure we pop the audio down on that one. So that's source 114. Give me a moment so I can kind of bring this up for you. This video coming in a little earlier on today, unfortunately, of what was a killer tornado there up in Michigan. I think that's 114, right? Okay, I'll turn the audio off on that once it hits. So here's what that video looked like.
OMG.
Matt, yeah, both of our mics are on. I think yours is off. But that is over there in Union City, close to Union Lake. And this was submitted, oh man, I forgot the name, but this was submitted over there in Michigan, and that is of the tornado on the ground. And this is the tornado that as of right now has confirmed 3 have passed. And look at kind of the recycling phase that it does right here on the other side of the lake. And watch when it touches down again. Look at the massive funnel that is on the ground. And this was where we did get some debris lofted well up into the air. Watch right here as it kind of wraps it around. I mean, that is just an insanely strong tornado. And that is where they did have, of course, those fatalities. They've had injuries. They've had a ton of damage. And so we're saying prayers for folks up there. And we do hope that, everyone else is okay and that the recovery efforts are quick. But nonetheless, that is a insane tornado. And yeah, that's what that severe weather potential can do, especially with those upper level winds, like Matt was mentioning, kind of going a little bit more, or getting a little bit more organized. So this is not the Fairview storm. We do have that Fairview tornado that was also deadly from last night. But this is again in Union City, Michigan, and this is from Lisa out there in Michigan, and they are okay. As you can see, went on the other side of the lake, but nonetheless, seeing that in your horizon, you probably need to be in your safe space. So we do hope that you do so tomorrow if any of those warnings are issued. But we do appreciate the reports, but nonetheless, we want you guys to stay safe above all else.
Where did you have that lower third? Where did you put the lower third on that?
I had to type back over it, so that's where Fairview, Oklahoma got put over it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So I was never going to find it, is what you're saying.
If you typed it a couple times, I'm sure that it would somehow magically become Union
But no,
City,
if I typed it was there. I was looking, I was like, where in the list is this? It's not in there anyplace.
Well,
Did you also have to flip the video?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, let me say
this
too in regards to those tornadoes. So Of course, the Michigan one is deadly. There are 3 fatalities, and I do not know the reason for passing. If it was just, they were in their safe place and they ended up just having one of those strong tornadoes move over the top of them, and it wasn't as sturdy of a structure. But I do know that out there in Oklahoma, the Fairview, Oklahoma tornado that we had last night that ended up killing 2, that they were in a vehicle. And I don't know if they were trying to drive away, but that's why we say get out of those vehicles. Do not try to outrace a storm. These are moving anywhere from 45 to 65 miles an hour as this kind of swings on through. So please get to your safe space. And you have plenty of time in advance to know this is happening because you have us 24/7. You also have those alerts coming in with ample time to prepare, act, and get to where you need to be. So Matt, heading into tomorrow, the last thing we want is a fatality. And folks, right now, this is the time to get prepared, stay safe, and stay informed, and that's how we're going to get through this storm together. There might be some damage, but fatalities, we want that number to remain 0.
Well, absolutely. And this is, again, not a high-end severe weather event. As we're thinking about where those safe places are, planning ahead for that, sturdy structure, the middle of the lowest floor, a small windowless room where we want to be, a place we can wrap up in blankets and pillows. This is where we need to be kind of projecting where might we need to be, because the 2 things you can do this. You can find that safe place and make the decision on when to go to that safe place. And you can do this, which is weather call, which will, of course, be the way in which you find out you need to go to that safe place. You do those 2 things, you're going to be in good shape. But you have to do those 2 things in order to be in good shape. One other thing I want to hit, we're going to go right to Ethan after this here, but I want to show a severe weather risk. This is in effect for next Wednesday. Already in place. This is that kind of next chance next week. I think the upper level system more aligned, damaging winds, tornadoes in this zone most likely at this point. But some of that threat will extend to our area, and positioning on this has changed significantly from time to time on some of our projections the last couple of days. So we expect adjustments on this. But looking ahead even toward next week, we are going to probably continue to have some severe weather threat. So certainly watching that potential and keep it here for the very latest on that. I do want to bring in our Ethan Foster, who has been patiently waiting since the beginning of this broadcast. You and I were at our Mississippi Live Game of the Week earlier on today, again presented by Casey Lott. And, we've done baseball for the first time. It's exciting. Had a great matchup again between Houston and the folks from New Albany, right?
Yeah, fun matchup out there tonight, Matt. Obviously, weather the focus tonight, but before all that started, you and I were teeing up a big game down in Houston and Hilltopper country. And, definitely excited to take a look at these highlights. Of course, a little bit of a different speed for baseball, but let's go ahead. Inaugural game of the week for baseball season. Why not have a nice little drone shot here, courtesy of our very own Matt Lawpond, bringing out the drone footage. I feel like I'm watching an SEC broadcast right now. Absolutely love that. New Albany taking on the Houston Hilltoppers in Houston. Top of the second inning right here. New Albany down by 1. Parker Skinner ties the game at 1 with the only home run of the game that I saw tonight. Pitcher Tanner Boswell gave up that homer there. Tied the game at 1. Parker Skinner had a big night. You'll see more from him later on in this highlight. Of course, I did pick New Albany in this game. We'll have to see if they were able to pull it out or not. Right here, you're going to see Noah Cooper's pickoff attempt at second base. This led to a crazy chase down. Braylon Rogers is the base runner there for Houston. Look at that, back and forth, trying to get him picked off here. You think he got it, but the ump actually says safe right there. New Albany can't believe it, but Houston's getting thrown around. The third base coach saying, go home because you're safe, and they actually ruled that a run. I couldn't believe this. You better believe that the away crowd couldn't believe that for New Albany either. Either way, Houston scores the run there on the crazy chase down attempt. Does not result in an out. Houston was up 5-2 at that point. Right here, you're going to see a bases-loaded walk. That's Walker Burdine taking ball 4 there. That added another run in the bottom of the 4th inning. Houston actually up 7-3 by the end of the 4th inning there. They're packing it on in tight there. But right here, Parker Skinner again, he's going to get a 2 RBI double right here. Going to bring 2 runs home. This actually would cut the deficit to 1 for Houston and New Albany. But Unfortunately, even though they did close the gap there for the Bulldogs, at the end of the day, Houston managed to win this game 8-7. That's right. And shout out to Tisch County for the 4A state champions. That happened earlier. But Houston won this game 8-7. Had to go back to this beautiful drone shot. Congratulations to the Hilltoppers for defending home turf tonight and for proving me wrong, proving that it can be done. It was a beautiful night out on the diamond. Lots of fans out there for this game tonight, and it was a lot of fun, Matt, and a great way to kick off baseball season. I know that the fans at home are going to be itching for more. College baseball happening the same time at this game, and we enjoyed getting to see the fans enjoying the weather while it wasn't raining or storming or anything like that.
I think the thing I just love so much about baseball is it's just so chill. It's just, chill in this situation there. I appreciate that, Ethan. Looking forward to what next week holds as far as game of the week is concerned. I'll try to do a better job of hitting the right graphic next time. That was me. I boogered that one. So Gabe's going to be irritated me at that. I appreciate that. We might have to, I don't know if we have to re-record that. I think we, we'll just blame that on me. Anyway, I appreciate that there. I want to bring Gabe back in here for a moment. Again, severe thunderstorm warning has now been expanded once again there in Tate County, right?
Exactly, and it's moving its way north once again, these kind of northern movers, and as you look at that latest scan, and it's moving up there towards Tate, DeSoto, even just on the west side of Marshall County. Let's go ahead and change it over to our Memphis radar site here to get a better visual on that as it's moving over there towards the north and west part of the Magnolia State. And as we pull up, we actually have the Memphis radar site, the airport, just close, if not right on it, as we, of course, move further into this broadcast, into the 10:46 hour. But this warning is in place until 11:30, and as you can see how this has gradually progressed, I want to look at it scan to scan, and that doesn't look as impressive as a moment ago. That's not to say it's dying, but it could be recycling, of course, as it moves closer to Como. Senatobia looks like it has the highest DBZs right now, and as it moves across Highway 4, extending up there towards the north and a slight east tilt to it, that'll be closer to Highway 305 by Belt, or should I say County Road 305 and Bet, moving closer to Byhalia here in just a few minutes, probably in the next half hour. So taking it 3D here real quick, and as we move it, of course, right there on the horizon, you can see how some of that storm top is getting a little bit increased. Matt, I'm curious your take on this.
I think it's collapsing.
Yeah, it looked a little bit more impressive.
So I think we have an interesting situation here. The warning was expiring. I think National Weather Service extends it. And again, this is the best way I can describe this for people at home. This is kind of like, calling balls and strikes, right? It's like, no, that was a ball, that was a strike. There's a whole lot of different pitches in the game, and one ball or one strike typically doesn't make the difference between, a win or a loss. Why are you shaking your head down there, Ethan Foster? Hold on. I'm going to bring him in.
You had a baseball reference.
Yes, it is a baseball reference. But here's the thing. Yes, while you can argue balls and strikes, get on here. Let's have an opinion on this. Okay, but while you can argue balls and strikes, if the team is doing their job right, a single ball or a single strike a lot of times does not make the difference. There are some impactful situations where it does, but if you're always arguing balls and strikes, you're missing the point of the game. Is that correct? A fair way to say it?
Mostly fair, Matt. It really just felt like a targeted dig given what happened with UCLA recently. I'm not going to go into that. Mississippi State fans don't need to hear me talk about that. They talked about it enough.
Well, you know what, Ethan? Maybe we should bring in second and third base when we have no outs in the 10th inning.
Yeah, well, I agree. But, a fundamental principle of baseball is if you take ball four like you're supposed to and it walks, bases loaded, and a win comes in extra innings, that should be game. No big deal. We saw a bases loaded walk in the game tonight. I got flashbacks. I thought I'd seen more than one of those recently, but apparently not.
Well, hey, Matt, while Ethan's here, we actually do have championship footage tonight from all of our champions. Of course,
hold on. Let's get a storm track on this real quick, and then we can do that. I would say I believe pretty strongly that this is collapsing. And the good thing on that means that it's spitting out whatever hail it is. I don't know that it's going to make it all the way to Byhalia there. I'm going to have to bring this full screen here for a moment, and then I'm going to get back to you two, and we'll handle that for just a second. But again, moving there toward, Antioch, we show 1050, Polkville there at 1050, Bowman 1054, Independence 1059, Wall Hill there at about 1104. Byhalia we show 1119, assuming the current speed right now. Maybe we're underdoing that just a little bit. Either way, it is in the collapsing phase. Whatever it's going to put out, it is dropping right now or has already dropped. And honestly, I think that maybe the 3D helps us a lot, but I'm looking at the hail swath, and I think maybe this helps us just as much. Because you can see, if I kind of clear off all of that, how we had this one very solid area here where we had the hail. It was more, I think, did a better job with this from our site down in Monroe County here, showing that kind of swath. But you can see how it sort of ends, and then that's that. So while there might be some hail on this, we'll show it back on the regular rainfall mode. Yeah, I think the worst of this is over. This warning is probably not going to continue all the way up to the Tennessee state line. I think that they'll probably end up canceling this a little bit early from that. Okay, I'm going to bring Gabe back in here. And again, yes, I know, Gabe, we have the highlights coming from there in Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I have easy access to a double box with you and Ethan.
I don't think we have a double box. We have a 3-box.
We do. Oh, no, I do have a double box with you two. Okay, you take it away.
Hey, Ethan.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, so, well, I know you're happy, despite being wrong tonight, not exactly starting baseball as hot as you did basketball, but you did get a win tonight with your favorite team in 4A, right?
Yeah, I got more than one win as of, the last hour. Don't forget about
That's
the
true.
Starkville Yellow Jackets. The boys
We're
and
working
the
to
girls.
get footage on that, and we'll
We won 7A, just as I predicted they would. But yes, you're talking about, of course, Tishomingo County, the Braves, one of the most fascinating and entertaining teams I've seen this season. And of course, our player of the game presented at the end of the game was number 24, Meg Moore, of course. Said her name lots of times this season. She played extremely well. She had 20 points, I believe, is what I sent you earlier. And I also mentioned in the 6 o'clock broadcast that Mississippi State head coach for the women's basketball team, Sam Purcell, was in attendance for that Tisch County game, also in attendance for the Starkville game as well. So maybe doing a little bit of scouting there tonight. Hopefully for Mississippi State fans, he was doing some scouting. But I know anybody would be happy to be able to convince the likes of Meg Moore, Kaisley Timms, and any of those other girls that played tonight to make it over to the D1 level, still staying in the state. Yeah, let's take a little look. Last second magic right here. And there you go. Ingomar and Okolona, the Falcons, taking it home. They just know how to do it. I mean, 15 state titles in total. Dalen Grisham right there receiving Player of the Game awards. And actually, one of the really cool things is, who else can say that they won a state title 4 years in a row and was the Player of the Game 3 times in those 4 matchups? Dalen Grisham right there. She had a heck of a game, number 4. So let's move on. Oh, man. I know Gabe's been waiting to see this one. LaFleur County and Calhoun City, the Wildcats, kept scratching back. I picked them multiple times this season. Got to see them in person over at ICC.
Got it, period. Didn't know that, period.
Yeah.
You drive it, period.
Keep scratching. So they actually won a state title for the first time since the 80s, I believe, is what I saw earlier. So definitely excited for our friends over in Calhoun City. They were our game of the week not that long ago, and now they're hoisting the gold in basketball. I believe that was Jalen Jackson who won Player of the Game. So obviously one of those guys I told you needed to look out for if you saw my preview for this game. Actually, I may have picked against Calhoun City in that game, but very excited for them to get to hoist that trophy. Love getting to see our teams that we featured making it all the way and making memories that will last a lifetime. I know that they're eager to get back there next season for sure. Congratulations to Calhoun City. All right, big Louisville, and of course everyone's favorite, at least one of my favorites, Tisch County, and the star power, Thunder and Lightning out there. You see, yes, the dog pile for the Braves taking down big Louisville. Seen both of these teams play in person as recently as last week, actually. So pretty cool there. Get to see them match up here at the big house. 24 Meg Moore, Kaisley Timms, a lot of other very deserving players on this team. who can say they had a magical season? They looked apart all year. There you go, Meg Moore getting player of the game honors there. She has been recruited by numerous D1 programs, and the sky is really the limit for someone like her. I've heard from many people that she eats, sleeps, and breathes basketball, and I know her teammates would probably say the same. So definitely shout out to Tisch County for finishing it out. We'll definitely be excited to see what they can do next season after this season wears off.
And Ethan, I do want to point out your, of course, number one player this year. I would say your MVP this year, Meg Moore. She is a sophomore. There are 2 years of terror still from Tisch County, and I would be terrified for 4A teams here in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, that's crazy. I would be very interested to see what high school records she's getting close to breaking, and just how the offers continue to roll in. I know she has a number of offers already, so I'm sure that when you're someone like that and you know that you have the potential to start as a freshman pretty much anywhere you go, if you continue that route, I'm sure it's a strange position to be in when you're only a sophomore in high school. Well, and you're having people like this, know that you could really just go wherever you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, the world is your oyster at that point. But Ethan, there's a team that we have to get to next year, and that is Olive Branch, Mississippi. There is a player on Olive Branch that you didn't even give enough respect towards because she scored 24 points. And guys, to give you perspective, she's in middle school.
A middle schooler scoring 24 points in a state title game, Gabe. That's a big deal.
That's huge. That's 4 more years of development that she gets to do in 5A competition, might I add. That's not anything to pass over. And so, I'm curious to see. I honestly, I probably have my picks next year for girls basketball in 4 and 5A. That's Olive Branch and Tishomingo County. So,
and we got to go see Rosa Ford at some point.
Rosa Ford, we do. We do, for sure. Yeah, and Starkville, apparently, because Starkville's a powerhouse now in basketball, both boys and girls.
Starkville, Mississippi, pumping out the high school recruits. Maybe they'll decide to stay home. And
you have a direct path. Why does Mississippi State not at every game?
Doesn't that seem like a crazy notion? Recruiting in your own backyard. Who would have thought? It works, but definitely a fun time, Ethan, and we'll get more of those highlights as we get into the rest of this weekend. Hopefully get a few more North Mississippi champions. I know that we will for sure have one more because 2A action tomorrow does have the East Union Urchins and I believe it is New Site. So both local teams and both could come out on top. We'll see what happens. Of course, I'm biased, but nonetheless, Matt, it's fun. This week's fun. It's state championships.
I've had a lot of stuff going down this week, that's for sure. So, I mean, I'm excited. Huh?
I said we're not done yet, Matt, between the weather and the basketball.
Just excited. We've had so many great wins from this part of the state so far. So, North Side winning it. Kings of the North and Queens of the North, right?
Has Starkville boys ended yet?
Yeah, they both won.
So that's 5 out of 6.
Yeah. 5 out of 6 is pretty good.
That's huge. Yeah. That's almost as good. That's actually better than your picks.
Hey, well, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. I have the benefit of not having to play in these games and bring the rest of the team around me down with me. I'm very happy to let them compete at the highest level while I get to sit and make picks based on my very limited knowledge.
Well, and now you know Calhoun City is legit.
Well, and I've been saying it all season. I should have listened to my own advice. All the fans at home.
You overthought it.
He got scratched.
I got scratched. I got too close. I got too close to the Cats, man.
Well, hey, we appreciate y'all so much. Yeah. Hey,
can you tell it's been a long week?
Yeah, it's been well, and there was a long last week for you as well with just all the action leading up to it. So we just appreciate all the hard work you guys have been putting in on the sports end. So while I've been throwing myself at the weather end, so we appreciate you guys. I do want to hit this warning here. Yeah, exactly. We'll keep doing it again. Appreciate that. Our Ethan Foster, our Gabe Maynor. We talked about the severe thunderstorm warning a minute ago. Still in effect for Tate County, but as we also talked about, it is in the collapsing phase, hardcore here So check the radar site there out in the Memphis. This is the one back up in Millington, the kind of official National Weather Service radar. If we were to go 3D on this, you'll tell that that collapsing is just obvious on this as well. Again, if you go back, say the last 40 minutes, this has gone from a very effective, I move out of the way here, very effective large hail producing thunderstorm here to just kind of fiddling, pretty much done, full on collapsing. So the severe weather threat is past on this storm here as it just kind of spins its way out, moving toward the north. I say spinning because technically it's a supercell thunderstorm rotating, but it's what we call a left split supercell thunderstorm more than just a full on one there. So I see that Ethan, Gabe, y'all have anything else you want to say? Looking toward next week here as we kind of work to wrap things up for this broadcast. Anything else that you guys want to add?
Stay safe tomorrow, and game of the week continues next week. And Ethan, I know you're excited to get out there back on the diamond.
Excited to get back out on the diamond. Speaking of which, I will mention this. I don't know if you guys have talked about the updated time for Mississippi State baseball tomorrow. But I did notice, listening to the tail end of their broadcast earlier, that the Mississippi State baseball game has been moved to 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And that's interesting because now they will have baseball going on at 10, and then they'll have men's basketball going on at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. So a little bit of shuffling around due to the weather concerns for the weekend, I believe. I haven't checked on Ole Miss baseball if there hasn't been a change in the schedule there yet. I was actually just trying to look that up. But I did say, okay, I'm just looking this up right now. It looks like they played a doubleheader today against Evansville. So, a little bit of schedule changes for both of our close teams there. I haven't checked on Southern Miss. Not sure if they're going to be affected much in their area or if that has changed much at all for them. But a little bit of shuffling going on with college baseball as far as that goes.
That's our Ethan Foster again, kind of with the updates related to just the I'm sure weather affecting some of the timing on some of those sorts of things as well. So we appreciate you and all the hard work this week, Ethan. Y'all have a good week and be safe. Okay.
All right, appreciate it, Matt. We'll have a good weekend. Enjoy spring break. Hopefully, we all stay dry and stay safe.
Absolutely. Hopefully. I appreciate that. Sad news tonight coming out of Oklahoma. Now, 2 additional deaths east of Tulsa. I believe this tornado here that we're looking at east of Tulsa this evening around 8:30 or so. Confirmation of 2 fatalities with that. So unfortunately, I believe that takes I'm going to bring Gabe in here for a moment because he's been, as I've been running all around. If you'll head over there to the monitor for a second, Gabe. So you had 3 up in Michigan, and in Oklahoma last night you had.
Well, you had 2 last night, and then you have 2 tonight. So that's 7 total deaths in the last 36 hours. And they're still picking up debris. So I'm not saying that number is set in stone. So unfortunately, that number could climb. And I mean, you see the line still. That still has a ton of potential to produce some more damage. So hopefully folks are taking this seriously, getting to where they need to go, and staying safe as this line passes.
Man, I'm going to pray for those folks out there that real quick, and then we're going to kind of wrap things up. And God, just protect these people overnight and keep them safe from this bad weather. Be with those that have lost and just bring them comfort in this time. But help your people to hear what they need to hear, to do what they need to do to keep them and their families safe. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Our next live broadcast
Get the free app. Go ahead and download the free Mississippi Live Weather app today, Android and iOS. Both QR codes there on the bottom of your screen. And when severe weather does strike, like tomorrow, that's where that app really comes in handy and adds that other layer of protection. And of course, it does have our live broadcast as well. And as we pull up that broadcast schedule, I do want to note, while it does have a set in place schedule, it's going to be really flexible tomorrow as we go about the day because of the severe weather threat moving in about 10 a.m. and lingering until about 8 p.m. So while it does say 5, 6, and 10, and our weekend broadcast is at 6 and 10, more than likely we'll be on air a good bit for your Saturday, walking you through that line as it moves on through. Hopefully, no damage. Hopefully, no fatalities, no injuries. But of course, we'll keep you guys safe and updated as we go about the Saturday forecast. Make sure to keep it here for the very latest. And thank you for trusting us. We'll see you back live here from the Room to Room Weather Center.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious. When he began to discover weather, Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes, and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.